Hi everyone, today we are going to learn how to make a fiber coil pot, and it's going to look something like this. Yours might end up a little bit bigger. I'm not sure. This might have been a short piece of jute, but this is kind of what the end product is going to look like. It's basically just a bowl made out of yarn and this kind of rope that's called jute. So we are going to need a pair of scissors, a plastic needle. You should be getting this jute from me, and then you're going to need yarn. And you can get a couple different colors if you want to do stripes like this, or if you want the whole thing to be one solid color, that's fine. But you just need to start with one kind of yarn for now, and go ahead and cut yourself off a piece that is the same length as both of your arms stretched completely out. Nice long piece of yarn. You can even go a little bit longer than that. Okay, so now that we have all of our materials ready, we need to go ahead and take our scissors, and we're going to trim the end of our rope. We're going to cut it at an angle, and that's going to help us a little bit later on. And this stuff does make a mess. And the extra rope that you're not using at the moment, just kind of push that off to the side. Now, I am right-handed, so everything that you're going to see is best for someone who is right-handed. If you're left-handed, you probably want to switch everything over so that you're working this way. Right-handed, I'm just going to show you the way a right-handed person would do this. All right, so I want you to find about 1 inch down on that rope and just kind of hold it with your left hand. And with your other hand, I want you to find, on the piece of yarn that you cut, I want you to find the same spot, about 1 inch down, like so. So you're going to put those two together so that they're pointing in the opposite direction. So your rope is pointing to the right, your yarn is pointing to the left. What we're going to do is pinch that 1 inch spot with our left hand, and with our right hand, we are going to start wrapping towards that direction, towards the left. So we're going to kind of orbit around this whole piece of rope. And you're wrapping tightly. Your hands are going to start to hurt after a while. And you're wrapping so that there are no gaps between each layer of yarn. So we're just going to keep doing this until this whole piece of yarn is covered up, that little tail. Just keep going until it's covered up. Just a little bit further, just to make sure. Alright, so when you're done, you should have something that looks kind of like this. Our next step is we need to fold this in half, like so, so that the two ends of our yarn are kind of meeting. You can see that, so. And we are going to continue to wrap so that we're joining these two pieces of rope together. You want to cover this guy right here. So continuing to wrap tightly. You're going to do that same technique where you're just kind of orbiting freely with your right hand or with your dominant hand all the way around, and it does look kind of like a noose, but that's not what we're making. That's just what this step looks like. You're going to keep wrapping until the very tail end of that rope is covered up. So it's going to look something like this. Okay, so looking back at my example, the very inside of this bowl, that's what we're starting to make. This is where you begin, the very inside. So that's one of those little openings right there. Okay, so now what you're going to do is just set that down somewhere so it doesn't fall. And on the other end, I want you to take your needle and thread it through. Now these needles belong to the school and they have been used before, so please don't put them in your mouth, put them in your ears, or anything gross like that. Okay, so you're just going to tie it on the end. You can tie it in a knot. So it will cover them. Okay. So let's pick our creation back up here. Now this is going to be kind of a weird step because since we wrapped it so tightly, it's going to be kind of hard to do. But what you want to do is you want to turn this into a lowercase e. So let me see if I can get mine to coil. So I'm turning it into a lowercase e. You guys see the lowercase e? Hopefully you do. Okay, and I'm going to flip mine over like so. So it's a backwards e. And what I'm going to do with this needle is I'm going to drop it down inside that little teardrop shape right there. So I'm going to drop the needle down, and I'm going to pull all of that extra yarn through. And I'm going to pull it pretty tight. Okay? So you should have one stitch through that teardrop. So now comes the fun part. This is the pattern that we're going to be using throughout pretty much the whole thing. You're going to wrap 5 times, pull through once. Wrap 5 times, pull through once. So I'm going to take, with my left hand, I'm going to hold the excess of the rope. And with my right hand, I'm holding the yarn, pulling tight. So I'm going to wrap 5 times. I'm going to wrap around this empty piece right here. So 1, I have to scoot it over a little bit. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if you're doing this correctly, you should be able to freely orbit around this whole thing. If you have to drop the yarn each time and try to pick it up, you're doing it wrong. So you will need to just kind of make sure you're holding it the way I'm holding mine. All right, so we wrapped 5 times. Now it's time to pull through once. So we're going to take our needle, go back through that teardrop. And I'm going to make sure it's landing in the right spot, right next to the last piece right here. Alright, so now I'm ready to wrap 5 more times. Okay, so remember, wrap tightly. You don't want to see the jute. I have jute peeking through right here and a little bit right there, but it's close enough. So I'm wrapping 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to drop my needle down into that same teardrop 1 time. Now, we're going to keep doing that until we get to the point of that teardrop. Okay? Oops, oh no, I dropped it. Okay. If you ever drop it, just pick it back up and make sure you're pulling it tight, and then you just keep going. So I'm going to wrap 5 times. 5, pull through 1. So this is the hardest part about this project, is getting started. So once you get past this part, you're going to be golden. It's really easy to finish. It's just a very repetitive pattern that we're going to be using. So this is the hardest part. So if you're feeling discouraged, don't worry, it will get easier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull through 1. So you should notice that this is starting to spiral in on itself, like so. Starting to make the coil. And the yarn that I'm using is dyed in a way. It's dyed in a way that it looks like the colors are changing. So if you have color changing yarn, you don't have to change the colors of the yarn. This will take care of it for you, and you'll end up with a multicolored bowl by the end of this. So that's something cool that you can do. Alright, so pull through once. I'm going to wrap 5 more times. And I'm going to go through that teardrop shape 1 last time. Now, pay very close attention, because this is where a lot of people will get mixed up. I'm wrapping 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5. But now, instead of going through that teardrop, I'm going to go through this other hole that we have created here. Drop down in there. And I'm going to continue that pattern. That wrap 5 times and go through this. I'm going to keep going through this hole for just a little bit, and then I'll show you what we do. If at any point you run out of yarn, just go ahead and pull off another really long piece, tie it on, and keep going. Wrap 5 times, go through 1. 2, 3, 4, 5. Going through that other hole 1. So make sure you're paying attention. This is not the teardrop, this is the other one. 2, 3, 4, 5. Go through 1. Okay, so it's definitely spiraling, and that's what you want. Mine's kind of making like an oval shape instead of a circular shape, and that's okay. Does it really matter? It's going to make a neat project regardless. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Go through 1. Alright, now this is the last tricky part. From here on out, I'm no longer going through either this hole or this hole. I'm not going to do any more throughout this whole project. So, let me show you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, I'm going to take the needle and I'm going through the row right before. There's a little, I guess where they're meeting. You're going to push the needle in between. It's going to be kind of hard to do if you're wrapping it tight enough. You're going to pull it through. This is where this needle really comes in handy. And you're going to keep doing that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put the needle through the row right before. Pull it really tight. Okay, do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and pull it through. I'm starting to run out of yarn, so now would be a good time for me to stop and add more. But I'm just going to go ahead and kind of explain how the rest of this project is going to go. We're going to continue using that same pattern, wrap 5 times, go through 1, and this is just going to keep coiling further and further out. And when you feel like you have a base that's a good size, you can start to stack your rows. So instead of going out flat like a plate, whenever you pull through one, you're going to kind of stack the yarn, or not the yarn, stack the rope, and it's going to coil up instead of out. So you're going to end up with more of a bowl shape than a plate. So my base on this one is probably about 3 inches, 3.5 inches in diameter, and then I started to go out. So wrapping 5 times and going through once, you're going to end up with this kind of neat little notched pattern throughout the whole thing. So that's what you're looking for. You're going to look for that little notched pattern as you coil outward. And that's that. So remember, wrap tightly. Your hand is going to get tired. That's what you want. That means you're wrapping tight enough. And make sure that your jute is not showing as you're doing this. You want to make sure that you're wrapping close together. So just remember that pattern. Wrap 5 times, go through 1. You're going to keep going until all of your yarn is covered up. Not yarn, your jute, I'm sorry. Until all of your jute is covered up. And then at the very end, I will show you how to finish your project.